show you
But
exactly
the
what
whole,
it is.
but the problem is that my intraland is under PWMSA. So Autumn has to convert that over to my SGR and loans.
Wait, what is the other?
My intraland right now, my login is under my parent that has an email.
Oh, I see, so we can associate with you.
Yeah, so she has to switch that email address over to our name of this one, so that I can originate, but I can't originate yet. They don't want me to, yeah, so I can wait a day for that refund.
No, let's get it going with it, it'll get you over the hump, it's super easy.
But I mean, I have basics though, my next step is to email the guy, just say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna get you in, but here's all the documents that I need upfront, you know, like not upfront, but what I need, so they just.
Is there any food in the fridge?
No, I'm here, so you can do it, it's easy and make it fun, you know? It's your call.
You can do it on your internet.
Uh,
Well, you have to, because I can't use mine, mine's under.
Yeah, no, we'll do it under the, now, did they complete the app? Did you fast track them or do anything?
Nothing.
You need to start them?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
and
need-
you're not up on Intraland as your.
I can't,
Okay.
right.
Well, let's do that, and
So
then,
then I was thinking.
so you're saying they'll have the Intraland.
Hi, how are you?
Fast
Good.
track?
Is there a team meeting?
Oh.
We are, we're gonna
that's
do it
right.
right now at
That way.
at 11.
100%.
I have 10:59 on my phone,
Oh,
so
that's
we're
fine.
still good. That
Yeah, we're
clock's
good. We'll watch it.
fast. I need a clicker, and I need some people,
It's kindergarten, you're gonna go what?
and some donuts. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I'll just put this here. I'm going to be the team meeting guy, because Eric is at a training today.
The nice part is how they're visual.
Eric is at a lead, TL thing, training today in Pleasanton with Connor and Layla and such on. Oh, no, I have other responsibilities today. Let's go, folks, let's bring it in. Where is everybody? Did you hear that Eddie was doing the team meeting instead of Eric? Well, you guys didn't. You guys are here because you're awesome. But where's everybody else? I'm gonna yell this way. Do we have a team meeting? Anybody want to meet? Yeah. All right.
Yeah, ready?
I'm gonna. I'm like a carnival barker, like outside of a shop. Come on, let's have a team meeting. I need a sandwich board.
You need food, that's all.
Oh, yeah, wait,
Do it. All right, I have a clicker in my hand, Harshita, that you're probably looking for. Welcome, everybody. Love that blazer.
Yeah, matching.
Super cute, yeah. We are going to do the team meeting today for March 18th, which is crazy because that means that we are almost finished with the first quarter of the year. And I always try to point out where we are in the year because I think that what we should be doing as business people is always reevaluating our progress, realigning ourselves, setting, looking at the goals that we set at our business planning clinics to see if things are lining up. Sometimes we have to adjust, right? We have to adjust for things going on in our lives, for practical realities, but we should be thoughtful about the businesses that we're building. So today is March 18th, again, almost the end of the first quarter of the year, and there are only 4 quarters in the year. So it's time to get to work. And we'll look a little bit about how the market is looking later on in the slides to kind of give us a little perspective of if we as a market are where we would expect to be. So tell me something good is a great idea. Let's start up with a little positive energy. I've actually been in another room kind of putting out some fires and I'm kind of feeling it, like when you're feeling it, and I want to shake it off. So let's shake off everybody and say something positive. Who's got something positive for us?
Did you want some Taylor Swift while we're doing that?
I'm a very old man, and I'm only familiar with the name, and I probably don't know a Taylor Swift song. Are you all going to get up and
Shake
leave
it
now?
off. Shake it off.
What's that?
That's the song, Shake It Off.
Is that what it is? Really? Yeah. I got to get a little bit more up to date. Anybody know who Bruce Springsteen is? No.
Obviously, I do. But I also know Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
So a few weeks ago, this is not anything to do with real estate. A few weeks ago, I mentioned that my grandson was going to go for some electronic magnetic brain therapy. because he has such severe autism. It started last week, and it has been marvelous, wonderful. He's had no violent outbreaks. He got angry on Sunday, but he'd also been 2 days without any without any therapy. But right now, it's going really well. Anybody knows somebody with severe depression or severe autism, talk to me.
Awesome.
Lead you
That's
to a good
great.
direction.
We love it. That is something good for
Yeah.
sure. Right. Awesome. Anybody want to?
I was I had a booth at a trade show Saturday morning.
Nice.
Talked to 120 people.
Wow.
It was great.
Wow.
Did you get any clients?
I just scheduled an appointment this morning.
Great.
For one of them. I've got 4 or 5 strong lead follow-ups.
Why would a realtor want to talk to people, to get in front of people?
And I was the only realtor there, and I had one of the very best locations. Location.
Where was it at? What kind of?
So this was a disability resource fair for folks who are aging out of certain services and into other services. There were 70 vendors there, and many of them I network with all the time anyway. So it was just great.
Great. And you know what? All right, so I'm going to share a dirty little secret about real estate. I was going to say for anybody that's new, but it's a good reminder for everybody else too. You know, when you're asking, how do I get business and what should I be doing? It's all pretty straightforward. It's about getting in front of people. That's it. There's the mystery solved. Done. You know? Most of us are like, ooh, maybe if I work on this flyer for 7 hours, that'll do it, you know, or whatever the other. But it's really about meeting people, right? We're in a people business, and that's it. It's that simple and that complicated, right? Get yourself in front of people.
Yeah, how often have you been to like your kid's event and they're like, oh, I just bought a home too, and you're like, you know, I'm a banker. And you didn't make aware that you were a banker or a real estate agent, right?
I think everybody in this room has that occasion where your sister-in-law's best friend is like, I just bought that house, and you've seen her at 1,000 occasions, and you're like, right? So what our job, really our day-to-day job, is to do everything in our power to avoid that event. Running into your sister-in-law's best friend who tells you they just bought a house. I mean, that's it, right? Okay, so anybody else with something good before we keep moving? All right. All right, we have some great news today. First of all, we've got the great Mike Houghton with us today.
Just to get a chair, that's all it
From
is.
RE Mortgage Advisors, our partner in crime, our partner in not in crime, in lending. Our partner in lending, the great RE Mortgage Advisors that has all the solutions that we need for our clients when it comes to loans, refis.
It's a crime how low our interest rates are.
Oh, there you
what-
go.
What
Good.
good our service is, right?
Thanks for the bell
Yeah,
out there,
yeah,
Mike. Mike is going to introduce us to a new partner, really.
Right.
Mike?
Yeah, so Stephanie, please stand. Most of you know Stephanie. I think she was here for several months to become a real estate agent. And I think that might still be in your future, but it was important to get this type of resource. The number one thing we want to do for our market centers is have somebody with knowledge and somebody that has the relationship and keeps the vibe going in each one of these market centers. So she's going to be covering Castro Valley, Fremont, and Palo Alto, handling all the meetings. She's going to have a physical office here that's open 24/7. Yeah, Monday through Friday from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, 1 o'clock breaks. No, I'm kidding. She's brilliant. She's been in the industry in our business. I don't want to say how long, but long enough to know, because I don't want to age her getting in trouble for doing anything else, but she knows her stuff. In addition to that, which I'm super excited about because I don't speak very good Chinese, she's going to be our resource for all 10 market centers as well. So if you have a client that needs help with that, she can do it from start to finish. She's completely licensed and up on the NMLS now as of today or yesterday, right? And she's doing her systems training right now, and she's like, I thought this was going to be hard. It's simple with the technology we've done. We've tried to pass that on to you guys so you can use the fast track, so keep that coming. She will be your point contact for everything. Sponsorships, events, open houses, trainings, those wonderful meetings you guys do at the Fremont Center. So with that, I will shut up and I will let her introduce herself and say hello.
Yeah, hi guys. So most of you I think I've already met, but those who I haven't had the pleasure to meet, I'm Stephanie. I joined Keller Williams last year in November, just wanting to learn real estate. My background has always been in mortgage lending, dating back to 2000, where I was working with Washington Mutual as a loan processor and underwriting. In 2007, I transitioned myself into a mortgage loan consultant and has been in that role ever since, well, since last year. And I just wanted to learn more about real estate on how to help people buy and sell. In that process of my journey, I met Mike and just had an incredible opportunity to join him, at REMA. So, my goal and my commitment here and my job is to support all of you guys. Anything mortgage related questions, any kind of concerns, whether your client's gonna qualify or not, just come and reach out to me and then we can review it together. So I do trust that, by me being your resource here, that, it could add value to your business and, I just support you in any way I can. So I look forward to partnerships.
Yay!
Do you speak Cantonese and Mandarin or just Mandarin?
I speak, my main is Mandarin, but typically people who can speak Cantonese could fly with Mandarin. So
Okay.
I can understand, but I'm not fluent in Cantonese, but definitely Mandarin. I was born in Taiwan, came to the States when I was 5. So my mom forced me to speak Chinese at home. So I'm very blessed of that because now I can serve, the Chinese community.
Great.
So,
That's
Right.
awesome. And the great thing about having an in-house loan partner is, Stephanie will be able to, take the baton from you when maybe you meet somebody in an open house and they're at really early stages and you want to kind of help them assess their abilities to purchase a home. A little hand-holding is necessary. And there's something really nice about developing that relationship with somebody right here who can kind of help you with that hand-holding and help build the relationship as you're building the relationship with the client, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and just a quick refresher, and she's getting our line card all up to speed, but retail, any residential up to 50 million, any commercial up to 280. And there's not a product we don't cover. Cross collateral, departure residence program, bridge loans, buy before sell, cash offers, and then financing. There's not a product mix that's on there, and there's also some products you're not familiar with that I wasn't familiar with. VA loans up to 4 million. Reverse mortgages up to 6 million, if you've got clients like that, as well as Govy loans, if you're familiar with that term, FHA, VA, USDA, no FICO scores. Most all banks have a 620 minimum FICO requirement to take a loan or an app. We've got no FICO requirement. You still have to be, lendable. They have to have a job and everything else, but don't be afraid. You guys were using analogies. My mom always said, if you don't ask the question, the answer is always no, right? So definitely ask the question and we'll go to work for you and make sure we find something there, okay?
And this is actually kind of dovetails into what I was saying about meeting somebody in an open house and helping them try to assess their position in the market and their ability to sell. Like, we wouldn't have known that if Mike wasn't
I wouldn't
standing
even
here
have known
saying
either.
that you don't need the FICO score. So like giving like that nice handoff to the person with the knowledge and the information is
Did
key.
your cards come in yet?
Not yet.
You give 'em- not yet?
It's still.
Thought they were gonna be here.
Do we have something here too?
Yeah, definitely take this.
I can't
We-
see him.
No, I'm just curious. Oh wait, I'll go back
Yeah.
to that.
I can't see it. Oh, there.
There you go.
If you want to take a photo of it, but I want to know about
We
our
will have her,
access.
after her training today, she'll have her own QR code. She can also teach you guys how to set up your own QR code for your flyers, your open house, everything as well on a fast track. And then our monthly kickoff at all the branches right now, we're giving up to $800 free credit on appraisals. For any transactions you bring in March, if you carry over to March, shove this slide in our face and we'll make something work. We're just trying to do anything we can to help incentivize people coming in. And to kick off the week, the rates are in a little bit of a downward trend. So to give you an idea where we're at, all those Govy loans, USDA, VA, FHA, we're in the 5s. I just did one yesterday, a FHA 575, no cost to the borrower with 3.5% down on a single family. And then the jumbos and portfolios and the things you're doing with, those are right now in the low 6s to mid 6s. Any of the non-QM stuff, high 6s, low 7s. Bank statement programs, DSCR loans, investment properties, things like that. So now is the time to start those conversations. We just finished up calling all of our clients that we purchased in the last 12 months and they're already ready for a refi. half a point to a point down, no cost. Okay?
So tell us about the appraisal again. You're paying for the.
We are crediting any entry that you bring in up to an $800 appraisal fee credit. I've got one internally that anybody you bring, we've got $500. Several of our vendors came out for March, like March Madness. Yesterday was St. Patty's Day. I mean, I literally walked out of the house. I didn't have anything green, so I put a green baseball cap on. But that is kind of promotional stuff to try and help. Anything we can do to help excite a customer to get off the fence or.
Yeah, I just
get
bring
on
it up
board.
again because, like we try to pass along some extra value to our clients. So it's a great reason to
Yeah.
kind of introduce them to
You
our
bet.
mortgage advisors.
I think but
Anything else?
we're more than anything else, we're super excited to have her and just the coverage here, because the environments here are so good. If you haven't already known, the KW environments and teamwork and vibe here is just so strong comparative to all the other brokers out there. You walk into CB or even Christie's, I went in the other day and it was crickets and
Yep.
people giving each other stink eye. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it.
And that's
So-
what's great about, another thing
Yeah.
that's great about having Stephanie here. Make the relationship, get to know one another.
Yep. Give her some expense accounts, tell her, hey, we gotta do this to do more business, and I could say, yes, let's do it. So let's make it fun, we're excited.
Oh,
Thank
they want you to
everybody.
spend their money. This is
Yeah.
right.
Hey, Steven, are you talking today?
Yeah,
Oh,
he
good.
is. He's coming up later.
Okay, good,
Stephen.
good.
Thank you, guys. Thanks
Thank
very
you,
much,
guys.
Mike. Thanks.
Yeah.
And very nice to meet you, Stephanie. All right, so say hi to Stephanie after the meeting if you can. Oh, wait, there's the March Madness appraisal
got two
credit.
slides
Sorry.
for it. There you
Yeah,
go.
we're pretty good here.
Nice.
Amazing. Take advantage of that. All right, so we wanted to let you know that David Gunderman, who's in our Oakland office, who is the team lead for the Gunderman Group, which is just this massive real estate sales team in our Oakland office, is actually on the current MREA podcast. So tune into it. I know David personally. I've known him for years. I worked with him at Elan Pinnell before. We were both at Keller Williams. He is a really lovely human being, and he is a monster of a producer. And he is a very genuine guy. And a lot of what he talks about is just his genuine style of making connections in real estate relationships. And it's really worth the listen. So please do. There's your QR code there, but you can find it in your App Store, MREA podcast. He's the newest edition there. Okay, so Fremont Weekly schedule. So we start on Tuesday here. I'll run through some of the key things we've got coming up here. Today being Tuesday the 18th, we're at the Fremont team meeting, so we'll move from there. Growth call in action, business planning clinic today in person and on Zoom at 3 to 4 p.m. So I mentioned the fact that we're already finishing up the first quarter of the year, and we should be really focused and intentional about our businesses and looking at what we have ahead for the rest of the year. There's still 3 quarters left, as I said earlier. Ignite After Dark, 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Tonight. So, we all know or most of us know the regular Ignite series, helping you build your businesses. And we have, KW has created Ignite After Dark for those people that maybe, have business to take care of during the day and want to get those resources in the evening, 6:30, 8:30 tonight. So look at your calendar for the link there. Tri-Cities Marketing Council meeting, 9 to 10 on Thursdays. 11 to 12:15 is the Thrive 75, Building a Legacy of Financial Freedom, and we're going to get to a slide about that. It's actually Mark King doing this 75 Thrive. Something I'll say about 75 Thrive is that we are subscribers to the 75 Thrive group of class sessions. They are class sessions that are hosted by individuals who have kind of found different niches and different pieces of expertise in the real estate industry. So you can watch a session that is handled by a real estate agent who has created a niche out of working with the divorces. I don't know why, but there was somebody that decided to make that their niche. It's a hard niche. There are people that do, that, you know, specialize in working probates. Mark King's gonna talk about like how you build a financial legacy. They're really specified, and the instructor is somebody who's had success in that specific realm. So, and we subscribe to it, and they're all recorded and they're all available to you. So even if you can't make it to the session, please take advantage of the availability of the Zoom link, the class links. PC onboarding with Stephen, the great Stephen Beard. I don't know if there's a slide for you, Stephen. Is there? But just in case there isn't, do you want to touch on not the onboarding, but PC in general?
So yeah, I mean, we had a great session this morning. We did an hour of lead gen together from 10 to 11. Every Tuesday we have our regular group meeting, and then we do lead gen, and we're doing that in all of the offices, and it's been working great. We're styled after the Massive Action Day that Mike did here a few weeks ago, and we do a class every week. This week's class was yesterday, but there'll be another class next week. So we're here for agents. And by the way, this business planning clinic is every weekend. It's not just for new agents. This thing this afternoon is for anybody who's interested in figuring out their year.
Great, thank you, Stephen. And I will say also, you know, we have this great productivity coaching program for our newer agents, and we're always looking for people with experience under their belt who are looking to give back, be mentors to those agents. So get in touch with Stephen if you're curious about mentorship. Building a legacy of financial freedom. So this is what I was talking about when I said that Mark King, our past president of KWRI, is actually leading the 75 Thrive on Thursday the 20th from 11 to 12:15. So, and a real industry leader talking about well, it says here, learn proven strategies to achieve financial independence and create generational wealth through real estate. So, you know, we often get really focused on the transaction, and we're not looking at our you know, ourselves as business people. We're trying to build a longer, more fulsome wealth. So, show up for Mark's class. Learn more about that. Weekly schedule for the 24th to the 28th. Some of the highlights are that Stephen's got his boost on Tuesdays, but after his boost is that lead gen power hour that he referred to. We have
The class is here.
yeah, it's right here in this one. We have 1 to 2 p.m. on Tuesday the 25th. We have RE Playbook, How Do Commissions Work. That's great. Are you teaching that, Stephen?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And it's generic, so you'll be happy to know. It's generic, it's not market center specific.
Okay, great. And then Ignite After Dark, strengthen relationships, again, Ignite. So pay attention to the calendars. The point here is pay attention to the calendars because we try to fill it up with useful resources for everybody to further their careers. Some of the big upcoming events, we've got Gino coming from American Home Shield to do a lunch and learn. Friday the 4th, 11 to 12:30, so learn more about his home warranty products and get some lunch from him. We have I'm afraid that I'm going to butcher, is it Eid or Eid?
Eid.
So Eid, thank you. Eid potluck on Thursday the 10th, April 10th, from 12:30 to 2:30, so 2 hours here. Anything you want to tell us about that?
Is
Archie?
it spicy food?
What is it? It's a potluck, so everybody should get.
Is it spicy food pretty much?
It's sweet and spicy.
No, sweet and
Okay.
spicy.
So can we describe what the Eid festival is?
Yeah, so I think Alam should tell it more in
It's,
cultural wise.
After the end of Ramadan, which is going on right now, a month of fasting, so then there's a special.
So for a month, these guys fast, the people who follow that culture, they fast for a month, and end of that fasting month,
No
they said.
food, no
That-
water.
So that's why no one showed up yesterday.
Oh, yeah. And
So if we come,
not everybody follows that.
so we're gonna all come, even if we're not fasting, we could show up and pig out, right? Like I could show up on delicious food,
It's a potluck, so please bring something.
bring
I'm
something.
gonna bring the yogurt, okay?
How awesome, that's
And
great.
please come along with your family, your clients, networking. It's a
Yeah,
time when
for
you can
sure.
network.
Thanks, Alan, for the,
Everyone's
So
welcome.
date?
That's-
everybody's welcome.
Fasting and no fasting.
Oh, is it? We did.
April 10th. Okay. All right. So we've got Turn Your Dreams into Goals. It's a vision board workshop happening on the 23rd with Annette and Liz from First American. So come for that. That's kind of awesome.
And they're
Vision board
doing
your
home
year.
warranty too?
It's home warranty and JCP. I think that they're owned by the
Oh,
same
and
company, right?
JCP. Oh, not home
Um,
warranty, JCP.
And they're going to tell us about, they're going to help us do our vision boards for, to visualize the success that we want. KWA Fremont welcomes Victoria Velkanova.
She is out sick.
She's out sick.
I was
Oh.
wondering where she was.
Everybody give Victoria a big welcome when you see her. And we also have another new agent. KWA Fremont welcomes Pinaki Ray. No, not here today. Give him a big welcome when you see him. It's awesome. We love growing. Broker's Corner. So I'm going to go over I've done this a couple of times and I kind of love this. I think it's fun. The thing that I call the wall of shame, right? This is, for the context again, for those of you who haven't been here for a wall of shame session, when agents in our real estate community when a complaint is issued with our board of realtors against an agent in our community for some kind of unethical or unseemly or incorrect action that needs our peer group, our association of realtors, to kind of help police that action, when an agent is found by our peers to have violated a code of ethics requirement, and done something that they really shouldn't be doing. At times, sometimes, not every single time, but sometimes their name and the information about that issue will get published by CAR on a page called the CAR COE Violators, Code of Ethics Violators page. It is a page that your peers could potentially bring to a listing appointment to show your face with your, just making everybody think, right? A bunch of heads went up. Could potentially print out and bring to a listing appointment if they know they're competing against you. This is Marty Mead, our attorney, loves to scare people with that. I think that I like to pass it along. Like think of these violations and think of what you would do if somebody printed it out and had shared it with your client. Good reason to make sure that you're staying compliant. Also because we're all ethical people here who want to do the right things for our clients. But let's look at a couple because I think that they inform us. And one of the big takeaways I see when I look at a lot of these is that we work too quickly. We're not thinking. We're trying to satisfy and please everyone. And we do knuckleheaded things when we're not taking a breath, absorbing the situation fully, telling people the honest truth about a situation rather than trying to appease or have them hear what we perceive that they want to hear. So let's talk about some of the things some of these people did. So this person was actually, in my reading, acting as the responsible broker for in a transaction, and it says that I removed their names, right, and I try to stay some distance away from our market when I choose these. She was found to be in violation of Article 9 of the Code of Ethics. She was fined $250, which is not a lot in comparison to some of what people get fined. She was acting as the buyer's broker in the real estate transaction. She failed to supervise and provide oversight to make sure contracts accurately reflected the terms of the parties' agreement, therefore violating Article 9. So this is what happened. An assignment agreement addendum. Everybody who doesn't know what an assignment agreement addendum is?
Knows what?
What an assignment of agreement addendum. Okay, on to totally fair. I'm glad you raised your hand because we don't use them every day.
Yeah.
But I'll give you the most brief explanation of an assignment. So when we have a real estate contract that has Bob Buyer and his wife Betty Buyer purchasing a property, there are times when Bob and Betty Buyer in the escrow may decide, you know what, we'd like that property to be purchased instead by the Bob and Betty Buyer Trust. Or There are times where Bob and Betty buyer may decide, you know, for whatever reasons, we want to bring Bob's brother Bill into this transaction. So we want to change the contract so that Bob, Betty, and Bill are now the purchasers. There may be a situation where Bob and Betty are the purchasers, and for whatever reason, Bob wants to be taken off of the purchase, and we're deleting one of the buyers. In all of these situations, we're assigning the rights, duties, and all the rest of one buyer to additional buyers, or we're removing a buyer. We're just changing who is entitled to the rights and has the responsibilities according to the contract. And we use a document called an assignment of agreement addendum. Was that clear enough, like of what the assignment does? Okay, so we use a document, and talk to me if you have to fill out an assignment. We'll go through it together. There was, in this situation, an assignment of agreement addendum was submitted as evidence in this case, and it was an assignment of agreement addendum that was unsigned by the seller. So it goes on to say this caused conflict when the loan documents were submitted to the title company, since they didn't match what was stated in the purchase agreement. So presumably what we're saying is that Bob and Betty were on the contract. The lender is under the impression that Bob is no longer part of this contract, and the loan docs say just Betty. This is just an example of how what could have taken place. So now we've got a conflict. The loan docs don't match who the purchaser is. During the course of the escrow, the individuals that were named in the not fully executed addendum performed work on the property. There's, you know, we could go down a whole road about why that's a boneheaded move, right? Who here likes to pay for things on somebody else's property? Raise your hand if you like to do that. Do you? So, you know, there's a side lesson here, which is if your client is in contract to purchase a property, the idea of them contributing in any kind of significant way to work being done on the property that can probably be done later is not a great idea. It says then that not only did they perform work on the property, written permission was not given by the seller for them to perform work on this property. Where can I just do this? I can't believe she only got off with $250, by the way. And then additionally, the original deposit monies were placed in escrow by a third party who was the lender in the transaction, and no documentation was provided indicating that the seller or her agent were aware that the deposit monies were going to be deposited by somebody other than the person in the purchase agreement who said they were depositing money. So there's all of these things that this broker, in my reading, because it says that she failed in her oversight duties, this broker allowed all this stuff to run amok, right? And so much of it has to do with taking a deep breath, doing things correctly. If you have an addendum that if you're looking to change the terms of a contract and an agreement, you need to follow through and make sure you have a fully executed document, because you can have all these cascading effects if you don't have the proper documentation, and any number of other problems here created by not crossing your T's and dotting your I's. Make sense to everybody? Yeah, Anda.
It does sound like the buyer was an investor. It sounds like the strategy of an investor, like they usually go in the house and get them do. But it sounds like complicated.
You are so smart, Anda. Because another thing I'll say is that another way that assignments are used quite a bit in our business is that investors will assign the contract over to a completely new party. I give you examples of when you're deleting one buyer or adding another buyer, et cetera. But sometimes people will do full-on assignments of all of the contractual rights and duties to a third party. So your eye that this could have been an investor makes a lot of sense to me. Regardless, we have a duty to make sure that we follow through and are meticulous about our files and transaction documents. And there's a lot of other things I can unpack here about the deposit and the rest. You know, when we are in contract to do something, the party that says they are going to do a certain action is the party that should do an action. We need to follow the actual terms of the agreement. Okay, so let's look at a couple more. This young lady in Southland Regional was found in violation of Articles 1, 2, 9, and 11 of the Code of Ethics. As a result of these violations, she got a letter of reprimand in her file, and she was fined $2,000 and was required to attend some Code of Ethics classes. So she was the buyer's agent for the purchase of a residential property. Her clients testified at a hearing that she failed them in several ways. She failed to obtain a transfer disclosure statement from the seller. To me, that's like, that's a cardinal sin right there. The seller, an LLC, instead sent an ESD and stated they were exempt from completing a TDS. This woman forwarded the ESD to her clients through DocuSign without explaining the form and without informing the clients that the seller should have provided a TDS. So let's unpack this just a little bit. There are something I have observed in my role over many years in real estate is that there are so many incorrect assumptions that real estate agents make when it comes to exempt seller status. What do you think, Steve? Does that sound right to you? How many times have you received documents that are not the correct documents because a real estate agent or their client just makes an assumption about the client being exempt? This LLC isn't necessarily exempt. Actually, the exemptions are very clear and very limited. And if anybody wants, I use a cheat sheet. I have a CAR cheat sheet of the specific exemptions. I could probably roll through them pretty
Do
quickly.
you think it's easy for us to find that cheat sheet?
Email Eddie and I'll get it for you. But usually it's things like somebody who has been designated by a court to sell a property. It is the successor trustee of a property. This is where I find the biggest problem, is that real estate agents see the word trust and they think exemption. Anybody here hold their own home in a trust right now? Right. Steve or Steven, are you necessarily exempt from the transfer disclosures?
It depends.
Because your home is in a trust. You are not necessarily, you're not necessarily exempt just because your home is held in that kind of instrument, right, or that kind of legal status for your home. So there are all these assumptions being made, and we could talk more. We'll talk more fully about exempt seller status. Call me if you ever have any question or are wondering about it. Yep,
The
Steve.
most common comment that I'll hear from agents when it comes to the TDS is they didn't live in the house.
Yeah, right.
So therefore, because they didn't live in the house, agents think they don't have an obligation to complete the TDS. I've heard that. I could retire on a number.
I've heard it my fair share too.
Over the last 35 years.
I've heard it my fair share too, and I will tell you that CAR publishes a document that they call the Phantom Exemptions document. It's in the CAR library, quick guides. They call it the Phantom Exemptions document, and that's the first one on it.
Yeah.
It's a phantom exemption, the idea that just because you don't live at the house that you're exempt. And that's what they're probably assuming here, this LLC. Something else, and I will get to the rest of this, that I want to point out, the documents that our sellers fill out are almost always phrased with, "Are you seller aware of?" Everybody think about that for a second. When they freak out next time their client tells them that they haven't lived at the property, what is our client being asked? They're being asked, "Are you aware?" And then there's a binary choice under that, yes or no, right? So just be conscious of that. This agent, she's actually working on behalf of the buyer in this transaction. She's got this $2,000 fine because she didn't do her job to make sure her client was getting the correct disclosure documentation as required by contract and law, right? She was supposed to get this TDS. She didn't get it from them. She got it at ESD and she didn't question it. So we have obligations in these purchase agreements. We have obligations because our clients have obligations in the purchase agreement and we're their fiduciary. This person also failed to go over the residential purchase agreement and the seller disclosures with her clients. She failed to obtain a seller property questionnaire for the property. She failed to recommend to her clients to check for permits or other, or obtain further inspections of the property. After the appraisal, the buyers learned that an ADU on the property was not permitted and they needed to bring the ADU up to code before they were able to rent it out. The panel found that she violated Article 1 for failing to promote the client's interests, etc. The problem here, so much of the problem here, Article 9 for failing to properly explain contracts and documents to her clients. That is the root of a lot of it for me here. She's not doing her fiduciary here. I'm just gonna say something kind of blunt here. We make a lot of money when we close a real estate transaction. We make a lot of money. We have an actual job to do here. We have to carefully guide our client through this process. We have to make sure they're getting what's owed to them. We have to make sure that the contractual obligations are being met as they tick by, that our client are getting the documents owed to them, and that they feel comfortable and like they have a complete understanding of what they're reading. And if we don't understand it, we need to make sure to bring them to the proper expert. Yeah, Anda?
If the seller disclosure include the exempt, I don't know, the rest.
The exempt seller disclosure?
Yes. What is the right questions to ask the listing agent? And two, how do we record it? What is the way we prove that we explain contracts and?
So the
forms
first,
to
I would start it off real simply. I would say the first question is, can you tell us exactly how your client qualifies as an exempt seller in this circumstance? I noticed that we received an ESD. Can you explain to us? And then I would review that email and go from there. Steve?
Well, I mean, remember in the contract, there is a provision in the contract that requires the seller to provide evidence of representative capacity.
That's a great
So-
place to
so
start
that-
also.
That's usually gonna trigger a document that indicates or suggests that that person is exempt, does fall within one of the exceptions in 1102 with respect to providing a transfer disclosure statement.
So it's a good place to back up to is looking at now it's also rolled into the last page, the signature page of the purchase agreement where the clients have to check if they're acting in a representative capacity.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start, but it wouldn't have solved the problem here because this was an LLC and people started making assumptions just because of the
Yeah,
LLC.
yeah.
So, but it is the place to start, right?
Yeah.
For Anda's question, like first let's see who this seller is. Let's find out what their capacity is here, but then asking some questions. I think if you receive an ESD, you should probably get in the habit of asking the question, particularly if it's not super clear, if it wasn't in any of the marketing materials that this is a successor trustee who hasn't lived at the property or something like that. If you have a question, you have a duty to ask it. If something's unclear, you need to ask it. If something's a little bit out of the usual, like receiving an ESD rather than a TDS, silence isn't the answer. That's the lesson we're learning here. We have to go to the next step for our client and make sure that we're getting clear information. Okay? Yep.
And how do we prove that we explain contracts and forms and a buyer can be?
I would
anyone wants to use or
document, every single person in this room, before you're writing a purchase agreement, and I'm getting down a road of teaching a class kind of rather than going on with the team meeting, but this is important. Every single person in this room, before writing a purchase agreement for your client on any property, should have at very least one time gone through every paragraph of that purchase agreement with your client in preparation for the day that you're going to write that offer. And when you do get together to write that offer, you need to go back and revisit all the salient points again and have that, and make sure that they've had a thorough understanding of the contract and their obligations. Having said that, I think the way to fulfill the obligation or the way to memorialize that would be to respond in an email afterwards. It was a great meeting today. I was happy to see you on on Zoom or in the office, going through the purchase agreement. Please remember, if you have any outstanding questions, that I can help guide you towards a resource or an answer for, et cetera, et cetera. Always get in the habit of memorializing all of these meetings and conversations. We used to keep logs, like call logs. I don't know if anybody's keeping a call log anymore, but every bit of memorialization of any kind of meeting and discussion is huge. And anytime you can send it to the seller, or buyer in this case, you're actually also one-upping the service that they're getting. So you're covering yourself, you're making sure everybody's clear, you're doing the right thing, but you're also showing up in a really big way for your client, right? So it's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win to follow up memorializing. This person really, here's what happened here though, and it's kind of to end this question. This person isn't doing any of that. She's not curious. She's not looking and saying, why do I have an ESD? She's not going over the purchase agreement with them. She's not doing any of the responsibility that gets us paid pretty well when we sell property. Last one, the following two summaries are based on the same ethics case. I'm not going to do the second of the two, but I'll do the first. This guy was the listing agent of a property. During an open house, he spoke with some prospective buyers and discovered they had already submitted an offer on the property through a different realtor. He asked the prospective buyers if they were still being represented by the realtor, and they said they were not and never signed a buyer representation agreement. The prospective buyers then proceeded to sign a buyer broker agreement with his firm. The hearing panel, when this came to a hearing, the hearing panel, and I find this one really interesting and worth listening to. The hearing panel, when analyzing the case, noted standard of practice 16.9, which states realtors prior to entering into a representation agreement have an affirmative obligation to make reasonable efforts to determine whether the prospect is subject to a current valid exclusive agreement to provide the same type of real estate service. So I'm going to go on and read the last sentence, which is really the kicker here from me. He's engaging in business with somebody. So we have, even before the buyer representation agreements, we've always had, I think it's 16.9, the 16.9. We have a code of ethics violation against essentially interfering with one of our peers' clients, right? There's a very clear code of ethics violation in not engaging in conversations, real estate advice, et cetera, with somebody else's clients, no interfering. So just putting that down first. We have the buyer representation agreement now. This guy actually meets somebody. They come in to write an offer on a house that he's listing or holding open for the listing agent. He knows that they've submitted an offer with another agent, but he has a conversation with them and they say, no, we don't have a buyer broker agreement. So he thinks that's a green light for me to move forward and write an offer for this client. Well, you know what? Not so fast. And this is the thing I find really interesting here, is that the panel of his peers that sat with them said, you know what? The panel determined he had an obligation to reach out to that realtor with whom the prospective buyers had previously submitted an offer to confirm that the buyers didn't have an exclusive representation. I think that's really interesting. They're saying he should have gone a step further. With all that information, with the knowledge that they had written an offer with that person, the board, the panel, still thought he should have gone an extra step and called that agent that was on that other purchase agreement and said, do they have a offer? Now this is a little bit, it's not too old though. It was like from the fall. Our real estate landscape has changed with when we need to get these agreements, et cetera. When I look back at this, it was after the NAR settlement, so there really should have been some agreements in place anyway in that first case. But the lesson here, is that you need to kind of do your due diligence here and make sure that that person who just submitted an offer with somebody else really doesn't have some other obligation, isn't already working with somebody. So sometimes we need to go the extra step. When instinct says, I need more information, get that information, okay? All right, I am, is everybody sick of me yet? Oh, what I want to end the wall of shame with is, don't do those things. Anda?
Then is it a good idea when you send a buyer agreement to add it to the email? From our conversation, I understand you never signed with another realtor. if they never
Any
sign it?
documentation you can get to the conversation with the client where they, say they haven't, they're actually asked in the new buyer representation agreements too, if they have another obligation with a different agent. So they're asked to kind of affirm that they don't have some previous or some existing obligation. But any extras that you can do to back it up, in this case, he probably knew that other agent. He knew them in the community, and he should have called them. Yeah.
I would suggest that you don't rely on what the client tells you verbally. If, again, if they've written an offer with another agent since August 12th, 2024,
Yep.
there should have been a buyer-broker agreement signed.
The assumption.
Should have.
That's absolutely.
We know plenty of cases where they weren't, okay?
Yep.
I'm hearing cases out of Southern California where offers are, there's no buyer-broker agreement.
Mhm.
There's agents still not doing it. But if you know they've written an offer before, and if they say, no, could you please send me the paperwork that the agent provided you to sign?
That's right.
Very simple for them to forward that to you, because I can almost assure you, there's gonna likely be a buyer-broker agreement in that package. They just don't realize what they signed.
The default
Okay,
assumption.
It happens all the time.
Absolutely. The default assumption should be, Steve's exactly right. Like, we've been through so many of these classes and conversations about this being a requirement now. So the default assumption should be, whether the client's telling us it exists or not, it probably exists, right? But what we're also learning here is that, we have an obligation to go that extra step, particularly in our professional community, right? And make that call. Mike, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I was just gonna say, they brought that up in the Burlingame office as well, that the verbal is a contract, and 90% of the time they had a written contract, they just didn't even know what they signed.
Yeah, 'cause
Think
you
about
have
it,
a whole package of stuff, and it just.
Yeah, we send out, in our disclosures, we send out 110 original disclosures and contract, and they just boom. And I even tell them 90% are, form fed for everything we do, 10 are specific to you.
Yep.
And they're DocuSigned and they're done, so.
The other thing is, when we were in a procuring cause world before we had this agreement become something that had to be done every time, these cases in front of our panels were always weighing activities in order to determine whether somebody was owed a commission. So in the same spirit, our panel is saying that, we need to investigate this other person's relationship with the client. Pat, were you gonna say?
I wanted to say something about DocuSign, because,
Yeah.
right, we're doing everything by DocuSign, and one of my messages in my DocuSign is, always read and know what you're signing. Because if you don't put that in there, they can come back and just say, well, you didn't tell me I had to read it, you just told me to sign it.
Yeah.
And it's always, make sure you know
Yeah.
what you're signing, and contact me if you have questions.
Yeah, I think it's good it is more than good. I think it's advisable for everybody here to have those pre-written kind of reminders to our client to carefully read everything that's put in front of
Yeah,
them.
well,
Yes,
we
Steve?
have a KW advisory
Yeah.
on assigning electronic documents electronically.
Exactly.
And again,
But
it's
if they don't
likely
read it.
buried in all the documents
Ah.
you send as well. It should be like the number one thing it should be number one in the package.
With the, you know what, right after the affiliated business disclosure. But I agree, I
But
agree.
it seems nowadays, every client, even if you're a first-time home buyer, is a licensed mortgage banker, if not
Yeah.
a licensed, they know.
Yeah,
They've
well-
done the reason. I just had one guy said, hey, you're way too smart to be a mortgage banker, so
Yeah.
let me do it for you.
Well,
Right?
whether they know or not, they're gonna forget that they knew
Yeah,
later when the
forget they
dispute
knew.
happens.
Yeah.
All right, so let's look quickly at, there's a couple market slides. We really took a lot of time with the broker corner, I apologize. But I wanna look at a couple of like highlights of the market slides. So Tri-City total active versus pending taken March 3rd, this snapshot. 206 active, 160 pending. I just want to talk a little bit about takeaways, right? Because we've had a harder couple of years in real estate. Let's be honest, 2023 and 2024. But if we just look at where we're at right now, this is what I'm anecdotally getting as I go to different market centers. We are seeing that rise right now. We are coming out of the holidays, we're coming out of the dip. If you look at January of this year, you look at January of last year, you can see the rise that we're making here. We are actually coming into prime time. That's last year. We are coming into prime time right now in terms of our real estate sales. So if you've been feeling a little defeated or dejected by a tougher real estate market, remember this is the time. This is like we're building back up. So without you can look at the longer view, but that's kind of a takeaway I want everybody to leave today. We should be getting to work right now. Similarly, this is the actually I think it is. This is the last slide was 04 to 2025. You can see the larger trend in real estate. This is that particularly hot market before the market collapsed in 08, 09, before that, the Great Recession, where, the last decade or so, it's kind of more in alignment. The takeaway that everybody should leave today is we are selling houses, and things are looking up, and we are in our hot season right now. Let's look at some coming soons and some listings. Stephen, 1801 University.
Yes, coming on the market the end of next week. It is a fabulous, amazing view property. I got this from a past client who, it's a probate because he passed away unfortunately, and his brother reached out to me. Okay. This is an amazing opportunity to own a property in Berkeley, right near the university, right near downtown, a block from Trader Joe's, for what's going to be a very reasonable price. It'll be, the price will be around 800.
Okay, 2-1, 573 for an HOA is not terrible these
Stunning
days.
views too.
Okay, thank you. We have another. Pat's got it coming soon.
Actually, right now it is on hold.
Okay.
Yes, it'll be coming back on the market Friday, because we had to do cosmetic stuff. She was just, I'm not doing that, this place is fine, and she realized it wasn't fine. So we're now doing cosmetic. It's wonderful, she's from my church.
If we wanted to get in early to see it, the people in this room.
Well, you can't, because the painter's there, and then the carpet's coming in on Thursday. And
I just was wondering whether we could get, if anybody had a client that was super ego.
They come in on Friday.
Okay, come in on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay, get in touch with Pat.
Open house this weekend. Somebody I know wanted to do open house with me.
It's getting purdied up. Okay. Just listed. Let's look at our just listed. So Stephen Beard has one in Oakland.
Yeah, this is an amazing opportunity. This is right in Old Oakland, quite close to downtown, near the freeways and everything. I got this. This is also a past client. I helped her to buy this property. Ground level is fully accessible for people with mobility challenges, and it is vacant. Upper level has a tenant in it, and that would create a rental subsidy. It's beautiful inside, beautifully remodeled, lovely little backyard too.
Awesome, thank you, Stephen. Jan is not here, I don't believe. Jan's got one on 17th Street in San Jose, 1.3. We have Alex Kim. Is Alex here? I didn't see Alex.
No, but I have a message from Alex
Okay.
the listing. So he mentioned that's a referral from his college classmate, and he haven't spoken to his friend from a long time, but his friend is watching him regularly on his social platforms.
Great.
Videos and all the stories. That's how he contacted him, and this listing is his friend's father-in-law's rental listing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is it a condo or a single family, you know? It's gotta be a condo.
Yeah, it's
Family, right?
number 204. Yeah. So, is that it?
yeah,
Because I would say the takeaway there, and we do like to know where you're getting these and why. Sometimes like Joe or Eric will say, "How did you get it, and why did we want it?" Right? And when we share how we got it, we can kind of start to think as colleagues, like these are the lead generation sources that work. He's just keeping in touch with those people in his sphere. I mean, that's a huge one right there. Okay. Ron, I don't see Ron. Oxford Street in Berkeley. Okay, we're all selling far and wide these days. 1.4-ish, 1.35. Oxford Street in Berkeley. That's kind of right by the university from my memory. $899, $999. So $900K. Matita, she's not here. I haven't seen her today. Carl, anybody from Carl's group that wants to talk about Sonata? Nope. Okay, reach out to the Medfords about Sonata. Anybody else, before we go to Greystone, which we will do, anybody else have a coming sooner listing they want to pitch real quick? Nope. Okay, thank you. We have the brilliant, wonderful, hilarious, fantastic
Stephen Beard.
Stephen Beard, no, Stephen Klein. Oops, I have done that before. Stephen Klein for once, maybe.
We're both
times.
so lovable.
That's right.
And
Stephen,
charming.
what do we need to know about insurance?
Hi, everybody. For those of you, I see a new few faces. So for those of you that I haven't met, I'm Stephen Klein. I'm the managing partner of the Greystone Insurance Agency. We're an independent insurance agency. So we are brokers. We work with the insurance companies that are still writing new business in California. And as many of you know, it's become challenging over the last few years. So if you or your clients are having trouble placing insurance, property and casualty insurance, all kinds of insurance, home, auto, umbrella, earthquake, flood, landlord, renters insurance. And if you have side businesses, or if you know anyone that has a business that's having trouble placing insurance, we do that as well. That's what we're here for. If you want a premium indication for your client who's thinking about writing an offer and you think that the cost of insurance might be a limiting factor, you can send the address to kwadvisors@greystoneinsured.com. Give us a day or so and we'll be able to at least return a reasonable premium indication. Let you know if that home is $300 a month or $900 a month, right? I'm sort of starting here at the bottom. Also, as soon as you get into contract, have a conversation with your clients about their insurance. Who are you using? What's your plan? Encourage them to speak to their insurance professional as quickly as possible. And if they're not already working with someone, of course, we appreciate the introduction.
Stephen, they should do that because insurance is super cheap and super available right now.
Yes,
right?
yes. Most, you know, when I got into this business back when the dinosaurs roamed, I would get phone calls from realtors that would say, "I need my client's closing escrow. We need a policy. When are you closing escrow? Tomorrow." No problem. Here's a policy. Right? Those days are never, ever, ever coming back. Generally speaking, it takes about a week to underwrite a homeowner's policy. Sometimes quicker, sometimes not so quick. But don't let insurance be the reason why your escrow doesn't close on time. There's no reason to get in front of it. And I'll even tell you anecdotally, once your client has a bindable insurance proposal, encourage them to bind it, because once it's bound, they are locked in. What happened down in Southern California when the fires broke out was that people who were sitting on quotes couldn't bind them, because as soon as there's a widespread catastrophe, there's a moratorium on new business. And so all of those clients who had great cheap insurance policies had to seek alternate methods, which they might very well be stuck in, because after the fires are out, then areas get, I don't want to say maps get redrawn, because that's not really true, but basically proximity to a recent burn becomes a rating factor.
Mm-hmm. Risk assessments change.
Risk assessments change. Well said, Edward.
Anything else on that? So thanks for taking that softball about cheap, and insurance is a problem right now. We've solved problems for our clients, so let's get ahead of the problem.
Yeah, and it's very seldom that there's a property that we can't insure. A couple times a year we get rumors that fly around that knob and tube homes that still have knob and tube electrical active are uninsurable. This is not true. This might be the truth for some insurance companies, and that's the difference between working with an insurance agent who represents an insurance company and working with a broker who works with lots of insurance companies. So if you or your clients are having trouble placing insurance, please contact us. We rarely say no. Am I out of time?
I think you got. We've got another 30 seconds to a minute.
So the question I'm getting most often since the fires from Southern California are, how's that going to affect what's been going on with insurance? And the reality is, it's going to affect it, but it's not going to happen for a little while. Insurance is a very slow, deliberate, moving machine, and those factors are all going to get taken into consideration as insurance companies file for future rate increases. So. Your clients that are purchasing homes now are going to be paying today's rates, and in a year from now it could be similar and it could be wildly different. And we're trying our best to just prepare our clients for that as well. You know, historically, again, back when the dinosaurs roamed, homeowners policies renewed flat year over year. There was seldom a premium increase. Now premium increases are the norm for all lines of coverage. I believe that what's gonna happen sooner than later is that these double-digit increases that we've been experiencing are gonna plateau and hopefully get back to the maybe high single-digit year-over-year increases, but we really don't know.
Okay.
Cool. I'll be here for a little bit longer. Yeah, Pat.
So, I just talked to a potential client and she said she received a notice about how their property was put into zone 0. I think it's zone 0.
Maybe fire line score 0? Maybe?
It's definitely with fire, for fire,
Okay.
yes. Is that, like, is this new? Cause I had not heard of zone 0.
I'm not familiar with zone 0, but here's what I'll tell you what I know about fire line score. So fire line score is an insurance industry metric that helps predict an area's likeliness to burn in the future. The scale goes from 0 to 30, with 0 being optimal. So 0 is good. Historically, most traditional insurance companies would write up to a fire line score 7 or 8. Over the last 5 years or so, that number has consistently crept down. Now most insurance companies, most Main Street insurance companies that everyone in this room is familiar with, will only write a fire line score 0, 1, or 2. So 0 is great. That definitely, it puts your client in the best position to get the best insurance for the lowest premium.
Well, she's not in zone 0.
Oh.
This whole thing was called zone 0, the whole, and so I did look it up.
Okay.
And then it shows the fire hazardous areas in California, and they're still working on more. It was pretty horrendous to see all that red.
This is why we need to get ahead of it.
One thing that is changing with California insurance rates, the insurance commissioner just approved a motion, let's say, that rather than historically, the insurance companies have only been able to ask for rate increases based on losses. Now they're going to be using weather predictive modeling to set rates. There's a new position at the Department of Insurance. There's a meteorologist who's in charge of that. And in addition to all the other rating factors, now predictive modeling, weather modeling is going to be used to help set rates. This initiative was heralded by many, many organizations, none of which are consumer advocacy groups.
I just like inadvertently knocked my head against the wall when you said weather predictive analysis. I was, another overlay.
The reality is, and I'm sorry for all the doom and gloom today, the reality is, I think sooner than later, for a lot of the homes that we're selling here, insurance premiums are going to be a factor, not unlike property taxes.
So again, we solve problems, right? That's what we do. Usually we solve problems by handing our clients over to the expert in the discipline that needs the problem solving. So if we're dealing with tricky loans, we hand them over to Mike and Stephanie. If we're dealing with tricky insurance matters, we hand them over to Steven, and we work on. We'll find solutions. Steve?
Yeah, I hate to keep talking, I've talked enough today, but
No, you
every
don't.
single one of your policies is gonna be evaluated by the lender. So if you don't get your client started from day one you're in contract to somebody, expect delays, all right? Every single transaction we've done this month, every single one was reviewed by the lender collateral department, and 80% came back for, ACV versus RCV, which is replacement cost coverage versus
Actual cash
actual
value,
cash value.
which is a misnomer.
Right, and so what the lender is requiring is 100% replacement cost of the dwelling. The actual cash value is, the insurance companies love to do it because they say your roof is 25 years old, so it's worth X minus depreciation on coverage. Lenders will not accept that, so every refi, every purchase, just trying to save you a headache, whether it's me, the bank, anybody else, insurance is the #1 issue in California right now. You guys remember Katrina, they remapped the entire flood zones after Katrina. They're now remapping the entire state of California for fire zones, okay? We're #2 in the country for flood zones. You didn't know that. We're now #1 in fire zones, obviously, and so the lenders are catching up with it before the insurance companies are. So please, please, please take the time and have that conversation.
And for what it's worth, I know I'm out of time. For what it's worth, I believe very firmly, perception is reality, right? So the way that we present the information is gonna help mold your client's outlook on everything. So who you introduce them to might matter as well. I saw a question back there.
I'll reach out to you.
Okay.
Once we're-
Okay, cool. I just want to say
Thanks
it's
for
really
having
funny after hearing Mike talk as well. Like that, you've heard from three of us saying, "Get ahead of it." If you didn't take that away as the through line, is get ahead of it. So thanks everybody. Anybody got anything else they want to share? Are we going to go sell our
On
properties?
that same subject, I'll just say, make sure you advise your clients to talk to multiple sources. Don't
That's right.
stop with the first one and
Yeah.
accept what they say is gospel.
Yeah.
Have them talk to Stephen,
And-
have them talking to different people, because you will not get the same answer from everyone. I've had clients where they went to the main long-standing broker and insurance broker in town, the go-to guy. And he said, you can't get any conventional insurance in Sonora. It's X'd out by all carriers. Not true. We got a policy from AAA.
I have heard the same thing quite a bit. Like, no, they're not writing that policies anymore. No, you're not writing that policy anymore.
Well, that's what happened in another KW office. I wasn't able to be there one time, so they brought in another insurance
It was
person.
one of my
I remember
offices.
that. And that insurance agent said, you can't write knob and tube. And everyone freaked out, and I spent the next 3 months doing damage control in all the KW offices, reminding people that was that person's reality, but it wasn't reality.
We
just
have-
had a newscast on Channel 5, I think 2 days ago, out of San Francisco on knob and tube wire.
Yeah.
And when you got done hearing that story, you thought, oh my goodness, I can't get insurance with knob and
It's
tube
not
wire.
true.
And
We do it all day long.
We'll wrap it up by going back to Stephen's last point, which is it matters who you're talking to and putting your client and to Steve's point, in front of people you trust that can give clear, honest messaging. That's not gonna freak everybody out, right? That's got problem solving as their goal. And the same with lenders. All right, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, keep going.
Ready?
Thank you, guys. I was like determined to run it on time because I have a habit of running meetings too
Yeah.
late. So I was like, this time I was gonna make it happen.